Hello, everybody. Welcome to an impromptu, short, bite-sized episode of Straight Shooter Wrestling Podcast. We had to get on here. We had some major news being released right now, no pun intended, I guess, by WWE. This is breaking news at the moment. WWE has released a large pool of talent. I'm going to let Steve really set the stage up for us and give us the list of the people who have been released, and we'll give you folks our thoughts right now.
Perfect. Thanks, Santi. As released by PW Insider about an hour and a half to 2 hours ago, Sean Ross has tweeted out that this list of WWE, well, no longer WWE superstars, has been released from their contracts. Scarlett Bordeaux, Frankie Monet, Ember Moon, Oni Lorcan, B Fab, Jesse Kamea, Zadea Reimer, Trey Baxter, Katrina Cortez, Yeet Rama, Grand Metalik, Lindsay Dorado, and this is where it gets crazy, Santi. Karrion Kross, Nia Jax, Keith Lee, Mia Yim, Harry Smith, the son of the great Davy Boy Smith, and Eva Marie. Santi, reaction.
How do you react to that? That's I would say out of in the waves of releases that we've had over the last year and a half since the start of the pandemic, this is probably the most significant list that has been in a single day wave of releases. This is wild. It's kind of tough to kind of put into words when we kind of just literally hit like record. Hey, we need to talk about this right now. I mean, you just sort of think about the likes of Karrion Kross that, if we were talking Karrion Kross, at the start of the pandemic when he made his debut, we're thinking like this is a Vince McMahon guy. This is a guy who is going to hold a world title. Keith Lee, a different look from the prototypical WWE champion, but you could still see and imagine him having a long career with the WWE. The man oozes charisma and has talents by the boatloads. It's just sort of insane to me that the reason for this is budget cuts. But budget cuts from what? Everything points to WWE having its most profitable quarter. Every quarter they seem to announce earnings in their earnings calls. I don't understand. There must be something in the workings of talent relations, or maybe really like, I don't know, really maybe the finances of WWE aren't exactly where they're saying they're at. It's bizarre to me. Maybe it's just too much talent in one place and they just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I'm thinking actually that last point right there, talent pool is oversaturated. You hit the nail on the head. Karrion Kross is a Vince McMahon. If Vince McMahon was to get putty and mold something, you would get Karrion Kross. I'm almost wondering if this is, and I hate to go into personal relationships, but if this was a Scarlett's getting released, Karrion's just like, well, if she's going, I'm going. Like, if it was something along those lines. Granted, he hasn't had a very good run on the main card and the main roster, but at the end of the day, like I'm envisioning with Karrion Kross and Aleister Black situation. And this is very similar. Honestly, let's be real. AEW and Tony Khan, come our conversation last night, are
Yeah.
licking their lips right now. Keith Lee, I don't understand. One of the most over talent with the fans. And again, we did mention this last night on our chat. Maybe being over with the fans is not over with the back room. But Keith Lee and the Mia Yim situation could be very similar to Karrion Kross. This is, granted, all just speculation. Let's address another one that we haven't really touched on, Nia Jax, Samoan Dynasty. Granted, are we surprised that Nia has been released? Is this a long time coming?
I mean, the Nia situation is interesting, right? Like in terms of the hardcore wrestling fan, I think she gets a lot of hate. Like, you know, she's a scary worker, this, that, and the other. But what's surfaced over the last couple of weeks with the Charlotte situation is that she's very much clearly a leader in that back room, almost sort of like that Undertaker for the women, where like she seems to be you know, an unwritten leader for the women's locker room. So it does go a little bit to what you were saying, that yeah, maybe if you're over with the fellas in the back or the audience, you know, you're not necessarily safe. Now what's crazy is that just before these releases, Steve, not sure how close you were following, a very high up WWE VP was released, somebody who'd been in the company for over 15 years. I can't off the top of my head remember exactly what his VP role was, but the sentiment, my understanding is the sentiment once this gentleman was released was, and I quote, "No one is safe." And after, you know, I read that "No one is safe" article about 10 hours ago, and then 8 hours later, we are seeing a borderline atomic bomb being dropped on the main roster. Now, we can talk about some other folks that are on that list, you know, some names that stick out. Oni Lorcan, he's an NXT original, more or less. Yep. Like that is somebody who had been, you know, he was never the face of NXT, but he was on a lot of takeover cards. He was televised very regularly. Yes. It wasn't up until that 2.0 rebrand where we saw the likes of Oni Lorcan start to disappear, Ember Moon start to disappear, which that's another one of those kind of mind-blowing releases, even though you know that is somebody who's launched steam in the main roster. They started to gain steam back again in the main card. Honestly, here's the thing, Steve. Here's my overall thoughts and takeaway. I don't understand this pattern. There is no pattern to the people that were released. You look at Nia Jax. She's on television weekly. She's been featured prominently in the women's title picture, and if not the women's title picture, she's in the women's tag team title picture. You have Karrion Kross, and even NXT champion, one of the scariest dudes that's ever graced an NXT ring. And yeah, we can talk about how disappointing his main roster run was, but he was getting TV time every week. He was in vignettes every week, but he'd been off randomly for the past month.
But that's what I also said about the Aleister Black situation. They rebranded Aleister, and then they built all the vignettes. They were building it up and then just released. So this is very similar with the Karrion Kross situation. We're going to build you. We're going to build you. Don't worry. Maybe you're safe. You're safe. And like you said about that VP saying nobody's safe. That one, Karrion Kross, is a very strange one for me, because I expected maybe with the new season of Raw and SmackDown, there was going to be a bit more momentum for Karrion coming into the US title, the IC title situation, but it's almost like he just vanished.
Yeah.
The Ember Moon situation is very interesting to me, being someone who's come up through development, trained by Booker T, very over in NXT, great for the women's division, even had a good short stint on the main roster before she went back down. Very similar to the Mandy Rose situation that we're seeing now, but I guess she never really got the wheels turning again, which is a big surprise. I'm almost speechless with what the hell is going on. The one thing I do want to say is I'm looking through Twitter while we're talking here, Santi, and there's a lot of rumors of Alexa Bliss being released as well. PW Insider and Sean Ross have both come out saying there is nothing confirmed on Alexa Bliss. This is quite frankly bullshit, and it's not even funny to have talent at that level to be even rumored out. So I just want to make sure this is clear before we go off the air and post this. Alexa Bliss has not, at this point, been released by WWE.
And I'll throw this out there. Obviously, like I never wish ill upon anybody's job. Like I hope everybody here on this list lands in some promotion or in some other field and does well for themselves. Here's what I'm wondering, and this is, and maybe follow my train of thought here. Here's why I'm wondering maybe Alexa Bliss is in danger. I look at some of the past talent that's been released. You know, you've got, and recently, Bray Wyatt, you know, you've got Braun Strowman, and now we look at people like Karrion Kross. You got Keith Lee, Ember Moon, Oni Lorcan. Okay, so I feel like there's probably going to be a common theme across these people. Your Braun Strowmans, Bray Wyatts, someone like Alexa Bliss, they've been there for a while. We can toss Oni Lorcan in that, Ember Moon into that. They probably have contracts that are fat. Yeah. Pre-pandemic contracts while AEW was taking off. You can look back at some of the news from back in 2019 when people like FTR, the Revival back then, were being offered ludicrous amounts of money to not go to AEW. It's very possible that this talent that's been there pre-pandemic and probably has pre-pandemic contracts probably has contracts that far outweigh what they are bringing back in terms of merch sales. And then we can look at somebody like Karrion Kross and Keith Lee. They haven't been there that long, but they were part of that period where WWE was throwing money at the big indie stars to come over to NXT. They were in that back end of that wave that included, you know, Adam Cole, Keith Lee, Shinsuke Nakamura. I would say that these are the two top indie superstars that were brought before really NXT kind of closed that gate. So maybe it truly is fat contracts are being axed so that WWE can operate leaner. One name that is interesting because that we haven't really talked about, you know, we have a couple of romantic couples that were like, oh, you had Karrion Kross, Scarlett Bordeaux, you have Ember Moon, and you have Keith Lee. There's one more person on there.
Mia Yim.
Mia Yim. We have Frankie Monet, wife of Johnny. I was going to call him Johnny Nitro. John Hennigan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's somebody who hasn't had The Miz on television. That is somebody who probably commanded a fairly large contract. We can't even say that, oh, he's got to be safe. Like he was just in a main event feud with Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
No, we can't even say that because they've released main event talent are being released.
And what have we seen over the last 4 weeks? Him meditating in the back. So we're looking at another potential one. Is this, Santi, question, is this the final list? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I think that, no, I don't think so. I think that initial kind of doom and gloom quote of no one is safe. I think we're going to hear a little bit more, a few more releases before the end of the calendar year. I wish I knew beforehand, before we hit record, when WWE's next earnings call is, but there's a very strong likelihood that, you know, with the end of a quarter, whether it's fiscal or calendar, WWE is going to try and lean out their expenses. And the easiest place to lean out expenses, well, because right now they can't lean out on traveling because they need to make ticket sales, is going to be talent. And it just creates this scary situation for amazing talent that isn't even getting true TV time right now. Even though from these releases, it's very obvious the TV time doesn't even make you safe.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't even matter. This is what I mean. Like, I don't understand this pattern. The only thing that I could foresee as a pattern, but we'll never know because we don't have insights into this, are how fat the contracts are. So I am scared for the likes of Alexa Bliss. I am scared for Johnny Nitro. I am scared for Ricochet. All right. These are names that are, you know, at any moment could be let go. And come on, WWE, like really before the holidays, couldn't have waited until the new year. Like that's pretty shitty. That's pretty shitty. As coming from somebody who was let go once from a job on Christmas Eve, this is pretty trash. It's pretty disappointing.
This is shocking. At the end of the day, like, this is, I can say this is the strong. Sorry, I'm gonna hold on one sec. I think this is gonna be the most aggressive list that we've seen. Don't get me wrong, the lists that we have seen before with the Buddy Murphys, the Braun Strowmans, the Bray Wyatts, those ones that we've seen throughout the year, yes, those have been big, but this is collectively, like, genuinely probably one of the highest talent pools. Fully, like, none of these are no names.
You can start a whole independent promotion with the people who are just released. Seriously, you can start a whole independent promotion with these people. It's crazy.
You know what was funny, Santi? I was watching earlier the clip of Raw, SmackDown versus NXT, where McIntyre's in the ring and Keith Lee slides in, and honestly, the pop for Keith Lee when he came into the Rumble against Lesnar. How, WWE, are you getting rid of a talent that is so fucking over? It makes absolutely no sense unless there is something underlying that we don't know, and there are a lot of people back room that give us information. I will not shout out the person that you shouted out last night, but I will not shout him out, but we still get decent information from them. And at the end of the day, Keith fucking Lee? Come on, man. No.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll start to make more sense of things as more news comes out. But if you happen to be watching this video on YouTube, consider following. Excuse me, I guess the word isn't follow on YouTube. Consider subscribing to our podcast channel here. I think we're gonna try and make these a little bit more regular. When big news comes out, we can do these short little stints. A new episode of the podcast will be airing next Monday. It's gonna be it's gonna feel a little bit more bittersweet because we had some pretty strong words that were said in the podcast prior to all of these releases. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, Steve, I'm gonna leave it there. Where can people find you real quick?
You guys can find me on twitch.tv/Mr. Tesh, Twitter at Mr. Tesh, and on Instagram at Mr. Tesh. So, Santi, where can they find you?
They can find me over on twitch.tv/SantiZap. They can also find the both of us over on our Discord, which will be in the description of this video in the pro wrestling section. Yeah, we're very curious what you all think about all of this. And yeah, we'll keep our fingers on the pulse if there's any more additional news that gets released.
Perfect, buddy. Thank you so much. We'll speak to you soon, and everyone else, have a great evening.
Take care.